We do have a quorum. I haven't heard anything from Earl. I don't know if Earl's gonna be here, but we do have a quorum. We'll proceed. First order of business is to approve the draft minutes from the February 19th meeting. I know, Peter, you had emailed me a comment. I don't know if you emailed the entire group or was it just
No,
me?
just to you, Gabe, because I didn't think it was worth the whole.
Okay, I mean, we can make an amendment or at least an acknowledgement that there was, I think the minute, I don't have your comment in front of me, but the comment was essentially that the minutes were correct in terms of what was said, but that you had thought that perhaps the reality of the power situation on the island was not necessarily accurate.
Yes, that is exactly what I said.
Right, so perhaps with that caveat, the minutes are okay with me.
Yep.
The minutes, I think, accurately captured what was said.
What was said,
Yeah, oh, yeah, definitely.
Okay.
Yeah.
So with that, I entertain a motion to approve the minutes.
So
Moved by Fred, second by Shay. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Next on the agenda is a legislative update. Genevieve is, I think, on the call. Do you want to give this update? I know I've seen a few emails go by with various bills and language from those, and perhaps it would be better coming from you in terms of where those things stand.
Sure, I'm happy to. Can everyone hear me okay?
Yeah, great. Thank you.
So there's a number of bills, but there's 7 that I have been tracking. And so 2 of them have been printed. One is a study on emergency medical services and how that relates to ferry service on the island. So that's sponsored by Senator Chip Curry, and that was just printed. One of the other primary bills is from Representative Matlack, and that is the bill that would require overnighting of the ferries on the island, although require might be a little strong of a word compared to her bill language. So we may need to make some amendment suggestions there, which I understand that she is open to. There are 2 more bills that have to do with sort of reshuffling oversight, maybe of the Ferry Advisory Board, maybe forming a legislative oversight committee. Those bills have been submitted to the revisor's office and have not returned yet as drafts or to be printed. There is a 5th bill, and this one is, to my understanding, and I've been speaking with Representative Falkingham, it is a comprehensive bill, so it includes elements of where the ferry should overnight and also emergency medical services. So there's similarities between a lot of these bills, and I think we're going to see that there's some crossover, so potentially some opportunities to merge bills. Then there are 2 more that have to do with employee training and retention, and those have not been printed either. So we have 2 out that have been printed, 1 that is very close to being printed, and 3 that are still in flux. And let me think. So 2 of them, we don't know what committee they will go to yet. I'm not sure where the employee retention, Maine Maritime Academy, those types of pieces, where they'll be referred to yet. 2 of them will go to transportation. My understanding is that transportation will hold all of those bills until they're printed. And so we'll probably schedule a ferry day. They do try to be accommodating, knowing that these bills, a lot of the residents, a lot of people that will come testify them are on British Islands and depend on the ferry. So they try to do a good job of concentrating when people need to be in Augusta, should people want to testify in person. And Senator Curry's bill has gone to criminal justice and public safety. And I'm happy to answer any questions.
Great, thank you for the update. Are there any questions? Go ahead, Fred.
The question I have is that now I want to go back to a reference I made earlier in one of the other meetings, the term pedal to the metal. So in the term pedal to the metal, we're reaching a lull right now in the activity where we're reviewing what they're printing out and what we're doing. Have we reached a plan yet on how we're going to start communicating and starting to get other communities inland and other legislators to back our bills? In other words, seeking support. Have we come up with a plan for that yet?
So I've had some preliminary conversations, particularly with members of leadership, many of whom don't live on islands or on the coast. But it's really hard until we have copies of things to show people. And so certainly talking about concepts, ideas, Representative Falkingham is the House Minority Leader, so hopefully that will bring some energy. But we really need copies of language. Lawmakers are reviewing a lot of documents. There's a lot of asks. And so they really, they're happy to talk to you, but they want to see something in black and white. So the legislature is, sorry, go ahead.
So how would we, how would we go about that? I mean, what's the most efficient way to go to getting their support?
So really just having face-to-face conversations, or in your case, emails and phone calls. So once we have black and white documents, we can certainly talk more about a strategy of who everybody knows, put together a list of targets. Once we know where the bills are going, so what committee, it's a little bit easier to decide who you want to reach out to and who is going to be the most influential voice.
Okay, thank you.
So just trying to summarize that, I think where we are in terms of next steps for the committee is waiting for all of this legislation to come out, so we at least know what the playing field is, what we might support, what we might make a recommendation to change, and then think about how we might push those things, who we might talk to, who we might send for, let's say, testimony. Does that sound right to you, Genevieve?
It does. And just to give you a little bit of a sense of timing, there was a lull in the legislature. So they adopted some policies to try to make the legislature more family friendly. So they took the week of vacation off from committee work and session. And then they have been bogged down in debating the supplemental budget. But that pipeline is starting to move, and relatively quickly. Representative Matlack just submitted her ferry bill yesterday to the revisor's office, or maybe the day before, and it has already been printed. So we go from a period of calm to suddenly very fast. So as bill drafts come in, or as bills are printed and you have an opportunity to review them and start thinking about a position or any changes you want to recommend, it's good to have that information, because we will go from just slow to quick very rapidly.
Doug, it looks like you have a question. Please go ahead.
Yes, I hopefully have unmuted correctly.
Yes,
Do we know, is there any text of the Curry and Matlack bills available online at the main.gov site yet?
There is. And so I can drop it in the chat, certainly, but also the Curry bill is LD 841, if people would like to look it up themselves. And Ann Matlack's bill is LD 947.
Okay, good. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Any other questions? Hearing none. Thank you very much for the update. I'm sure we'll be talking about this more as more bills come out, and then we'll be able to formulate a strategy from that. So appreciate it.
All right. Thank you.
Next on the agenda is a strategy discussion, sort of a continuation from last time. I did have one email from Peter about potentially talking with the Coast Guard about emergency response. I haven't responded to that, but I think generally speaking, an informal conversation with the Coast Guard to understand their position on emergency response is pretty worthwhile. I don't think, at least personally, I don't think we're at the point where we're looking for a written opinion from the Coast Guard about anything. And I also think it might change depending on the island, because they have different start and finish times, and you might be up against different requirements. But I think it's good to have that conversation, and I'd be happy if you wanted to have a conversation with the Coast Guard folks, and I'll throw it out to the group and see what my opinion is. It's probably good to just have a conversation with them and see what they think. Thoughts from anybody in the committee?
Important.
Great, well, we'll have at it then. You have all of our blessing.
Do you have a particular contact there, or is
No, I
there
was
somebody
gonna ask
that,
Fred
that
if he
Fred-
calls to get permission. I'll discuss that with you afterwards.
So with that, I don't really have anything else on my agenda for strategy discussion. I think it's maybe better to wait until we have more information on legislation, and we could talk about what we support and what we don't support, but until we sort of know what the playing field is, it's hard to have a well-informed discussion about that. But I'll open it up to the committee about if there's any other discussion points.
I just want to make sure that we're utilizing time and space. So if we've got a lull in one thing, we're working on some kind of a plan so that we're never going backwards and we're never sitting still. We're always working for the objective.
Right, so another thing that has come up since the last meeting is that I know Peter and perhaps Earl was part of the conversation too, to put out a buoy in Lincolnville to measure wave action.
Yeah.
And I've offered to assist with that to the extent they want a boat. We can run a buoy out and drop a buoy if they need that. So that if to the extent that comes to be, we'll get it over there and drop a buoy with, I guess, the University of Maine is who's trying to do that, Peter?
Yeah, Dr. Lauren Ross is the one that has the buoy. She was down at the community center, but she's also the one with the two tidal gauges on Islesboro. So we have a relationship with her. And I am waiting for, I have spoken to the town manager of Lincolnville, and I'm expecting an invitation to go talk to their select board soon. And that will be the final step. I've talked to both the harbor master and the harbor master is the town manager and also the head of the harbor committee. And they're both really supportive, and it's just a matter of saying, here, are you happy? Yes, good, okay, we do it. And yeah,
Whenever that comes to be, we can throw it on Quicksilver and put
Yeah.
it on the way by. No.
Yeah.
Easy. Okay. Anything else? Any more discussion before?
I guess the only question that I have is, I know, it maybe sort of bridges a little bit the strategy and the legislative update is, I know in one of the emails that Genevieve sent out, there was a question about, whether or not it made sense to try to get an emergency management person, listed as one of the folks on this study. And I didn't know, I guess maybe Genevieve, this is a question more for you, like, when is the appropriate time to kind of make that? Is that now that it's come back from the revisor's office, is that really, we need to have a discussion about what that feedback looks like that we would provide in written testimony, or kind of when's the most timely way to provide that input?
Sure. So for the resolve, you'll want to take a look at who the working group members are. So if in your testimony, if you have any suggestions, one of the things I noticed is that the EMS person is from an island community, not necessarily an unbridged island community. So you may want to make recommendations in your testimony if you think that that language should be changed or there should be additional members. And certainly if you are in one of those roles that are listed as a working group member and you are willing to serve on that working group, please do include that in your testimony. And then many steps from now, as it moves to the committee and the chambers and goes through Ledge Council, if the resolve is funded and approved, there is an opportunity there as well to submit a list of names of people that we know who are willing to serve in these roles.
Great. Thanks.
Any other comments, questions from either the committee or anybody on the Zoom call? Hearing none, I think the next on the agenda is just setting our next meeting date. Are we thinking 2 weeks? So maybe this is another question for Genevieve. Is 2 weeks too soon, or do you think we're going to have more legislation to talk about in 2 weeks, or should we push it back perhaps 3 or 4 weeks?
No, I think 2 weeks is good because we're really moving rapidly at printing bills. And so I want to make sure that we're prepared if, suddenly there's public hearings for 7 bills in the same week, because that tends to be how the legislature moves and very, very rapidly at some point. And I do feel we're approaching that. April session is Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday as compared to the one session day they are having right now. So they're gearing up to be moving quickly.
Okay, great.
Hopefully.
So
You never
let's
know.
look at roughly 2 weeks. We're still thinking Thursday is a good day now?
Yeah, with the budget workshops, that would be appreciated.
Great.
There's a meeting here at 3:00.
What meeting?
CDS,
CDS.
the budget for the grant that the health center got, so hopefully they won't need more than an hour and a half.
Let's go for 4:30 that day.
Yeah.
Which day is that?
Thursday, the
20th.
20th.
Thursday, the 20th.
March 20th.
So at 4:30 has been our custom, if that works for everybody. All right, that will be the next meeting.
Sorry, just one other thing on, I guess, more communication. I think, we may want to think about just updating the website with the 2 LD numbers and maybe just the title and brief summary so that people can look and as we get more updates from Genevieve, we can do that. I'm happy.
Who's the one who does the updating? Carrie?
Yeah.
Great. I think that's great.
But I would appreciate if you send me how you want it worded. Something
Yeah,
enough.
I'm happy to draft something for you to send around to the group for you to look at and post if that feels appropriate.
Yeah, that sounds great. Oh, anything else?
Genevieve, you're doing great work.
Thank you. I
We
appreciate that very much.
All right, hearing none, I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
I'll make that motion.
I'll second.
Moved and seconded, all in favor?
That's a record.
Thank you.
Gary, the minutes would be less next time.